2022 eclipsed all expectations for tourism and travel in Puerto Rico. Together, we rose to the top of our industry. We introduced a new rallying cry. That honored our island, celebrated our people, and showcased the Boricua way of life. The world took notice. And the results prove it. We shattered old records and established new ones. Our social channels saw historic reach. We forged new content partnerships and opened new international doors. And yes, we won even more awards along the way. Time and time again, Discover Puerto Rico pioneers new marketing strategies. Innovate sales tactics. Leads our industry through unexpected obstacles. And responsibly shepherds the use of allocated funds to maximize the island's ROI. In 2023, together, we will continue to soar.
Wow. Muy buenos días, mi nombre es Edward Sayas, soy el principal oficial de estrategia de Discover Puerto Rico y gracias, mil gracias por estar aquí hoy y agradecimiento a la administración de esta institución, Ana Méndez, de darnos la bienvenida en este hermoso recinto. La verdad es que es un sitio espectacular. Los felicito por todo lo que están haciendo ustedes. Y gracias a ustedes por sacar de su valioso tiempo y compartir este ratito con nosotros. Antes de continuar, quisiera reconocer la presencia de gente que nos ayudó a que esto se hiciera realidad. En primer lugar, le doy las gracias y presento al señor Walid Ejeye, vicepresidente de Administración y presidente interino de Ana Méndez. Está por ahí. Al doctor Juan E. Ayala, director de la Oficina de Relaciones de la Comunidad. El doctor Anthony Rivera, vicerrector del recinto de Carolina. El doctor Juan Carlos Sosa, decano de la División de Negocios, Turismo y Emprendimiento. Y el amigo ahí, profesor Stanley Tapia, director internacional de School of Hospitality and Culinary Arts de aquí de la Ana Méndez. Igualmente están con nosotros representando el municipio de Camuy, Wilfredo Colón e Idaliz Irizarry del liderato del municipio de Camuy. Y le doy la bienvenida al equipo de Discover Puerto Rico que se encuentra este día con nosotros y que han elaborado duramente para hacer este evento, y a los amigos de la prensa que también están por allí en esa esquina. Muchas gracias. Hoy, luego de más de un año de no vernos las caras en este tipo de eventos, hoy pues decidimos que era ya tiempo de vernos cara a cara y saludarnos e intercambiar opiniones, como lo hemos estado haciendo por la pasada hora. Así que había que hacerlo presencial. Y para hoy tenemos un banquete brutal. Y empiezo ahorita, en un ratito, Alicia Valentine, de nuestro equipo de investigación, estará hablando, presentándoles las cifras del 2022. Igualmente, les hablará un poquito de lo que se espera el próximo año, las proyecciones. También estará con nosotros el director de ventas de Discover Puerto Rico para hablar sobre la estrategia de ventas. También estará Leah Chandler, que está por allí, nuestra directora de mercadeo, y estará hablando un poco sobre las estrategias de mercadeo. Y también tenemos un plato también fuerte. Hemos invitado a dos personas, una que le va a hablar un poquito de cómo se ve la industria de cruceros a nivel global, y también, para ustedes sé que va a ser bien importante, una persona que nos va a hablar un poquito sobre el perfil del visitante. Para ustedes, yo estoy seguro que es data de interés, porque de ahí ustedes parten para hacer sus estrategias para el próximo año. Y finalmente, y no es que sea menos bueno, tendremos un panel que ya más adelante lo estaremos presentando, que va a hablar un poquito sobre las proyecciones y expectativas en cada una de las áreas del turismo. Así que, sin más, quisiera llamar aquí, adelante, a dos estudiantes que nos va a dar la bienvenida. Se llaman Grace Marie y Leira Nieves. Grace Marie Berrío.
Well, good morning, everybody. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day today. My name is Leira Nieves, and I'm accompanied here by my colleague, Grace Berrios. She will tell you a little bit more about us and our wonderful school.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us in this day. Leira and me are both students at the best international school of hospitality and culinary arts, Jose Atoni Santana, in Puerto Rico and in the Caribbean, hopefully graduating in May of our bachelor's in hotel management. On behalf of the University Ana Jiménez, Carolina campus, and us, we thank Discover Puerto Rico for joining and choosing us as your home today.
Now, without further hesitation, let us begin updating ourselves. And just as a side note, we do have a lot of promising and prepared candidates for anyone looking for help in their own businesses.
Muchísimas gracias, gracias. Ese es el futuro. Antes de continuar, dos cositas bien importantes. Tenemos traducción simultánea, así que se pueden poner los audífonos. Y entonces cualquier pregunta que tengan luego de que hablen nuestros invitados, está Gretel Pérez por allí y el amigo Ricardo Cortés Chico, que está por aquí a mi derecha. Así que ahora les dejo con el presidente de la Junta de Directores de Discover Puerto Rico, una persona que ha llevado esta organización a otro nivel, presidiendo esa junta. Así que, sin más, Peco Suárez.
I gotta love the presentation skills and the communication skills of the students. Bluehost is recruiting. So talk to me after the meeting, please, okay? Love it, love it. Thank you for being here. The first time, like Edward said, that we've met in person since 2021. It was about time, and hopefully going forward, we'll continue to do this more frequently. Special thanks to the Universidad Ana Jiménez, Director Stanley Tapia and his colleagues for welcoming us to this great facility. Discover Puerto Rico wants to cultivate close relationships with our partners, including the academia that coaches the professionals of tomorrow. It's a mutually beneficial endeavor. Let us help the next generation of hospitality professionals. Our visitors, by doing so, our visitors will be better served, our businesses will find competent professionals, our destination will benefit from the popularity of great service, and our industry will strengthen. Later today, we will sign an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, to develop further the collaboration between Discover Puerto Rico and Universidad Ana Geméndez. With the agreement, Discover Puerto Rico and the university will collaborate in creating events like this one to give a real practice scenario to students, promote or assist the investigations regarding our industry, and promote destination development. We are planning to hold 2 in-person updates a year, industry updates a year. We will also continue with the webinars between the in-person meetings. So a total of 4 meetings per year, 2 will be in person and 2 via webinar. A lot has happened since the last time the industry gathered for an update. In May, COVID will no longer be a medical emergency. Hurricane Fiona, of course, affected our island, especially the south and the west. Of course, we're in the middle of the war in Ukraine. Inflation is hitting us hard, and even recently we downed a spy balloon. Still, we are confident that our industry is in the best place it could be to advance and conquer the uncertainty that lies ahead. Our industry is strong. We aim to grow the industry and maintain high levels of visitation and extend the stay of our guests, of our visitors. We are all working towards the same goal, and since 2021, we have been breaking new records yearly. Our competitiveness is vital in this endeavor. And for the last 2 years, we have had competitive resources to market Puerto Rico as a destination, which have led to a great bonanza of record-setting years we have experienced. One of our most important messages is that to keep that level of success, we must keep the level of investment and capture as many travelers as possible from our traditional and expanding markets. I conclude my remarks by stressing the importance of Discover Puerto Rico getting the necessary funding to allow it to continue to market the destination successfully. As shown in the graph, thanks to the support of Governor Pierluisi and his financial team, we have received ARPA funds to supplement the basic Discover Puerto Rico funding of $25 million. The federal funds end soon, as you can see in the graph. We receive from the legislation, the bill that created Discover Puerto Rico, the funding is only $25 million. Historically, the Puerto Rico Tourism Company used to spend $60 million in marketing. We only get $25 million. Thanks to the ARPA funds for the last 21, 22, and 23, we exceeded $50 million in spending, thus the results that you see every day. From 2024 on, the federal funds will no longer be available. So we as an industry need to get together and help push so that the legislation is changed and Puerto Rico, Discover Puerto Rico can get proper funding to the levels of $50 million and above. So I encourage everyone in the industry to help support us, help support Discover Puerto Rico. And when the time comes to work on legislation, that everybody gets together and approves that legislation and puts pressure on the legislators to approve it. Our future depends on proper funding, and it's not up to us only to put pressure on the legislators, it's up to everyone here, including the students. So I encourage you guys, when the time comes, to please help us get the proper funding for Discover Puerto Rico. Muchas gracias.
Se llevó mi documento. Ay, gracias. Deja bajar esto. Voy a sacar este micrófono aquí porque está sonando hace ratito. Ahora, gracias Peco por esas palabras, le quiero presentar al señor El Haig, que venga por acá, que es el presidente interino de Ana Geméndez, Y de nuevo quiero felicitarlos por el gran trabajo que están haciendo. Esa recepción ahí no tiene precio. Esos estudiantes, esos ujieres, esos muchachos, de verdad que los repito sin que se me queden adentro, ese es el futuro y están bien adiestrados. Así que por favor, por aquí.
Muchas gracias a todos. Bienvenidos al recinto de Carolinas de la Universidad Ana G. Méndez. Para nuestra comunidad universitaria es un honor poder recibirles y ser anfitriones de este evento que reúne a los líderes de los distintos sectores del turismo en Puerto Rico. Excuso a nuestro presidente, el José F. Méndez, que por compromiso fuera de la isla no pudo acompañarnos en la mañana de hoy. No obstante, tengo la encomienda de expresarles su compromiso con cada uno de ustedes y colocar los recursos de nuestra institución a su disposición. Conocemos la aportación de la industria del turismo a la isla. Sin lugar a duda, representa uno de los sectores más importantes para nuestro desarrollo económico y para que el mundo entero conozca los atributos y la grandeza que tenemos en estas 100 por 35 millas. Los invitamos a mirar el sector académico como aliado en los objetivos de negocio que se propongan. Desde aquí se forjan los nuevos líderes que tendrán la encomienda de dirigir diferentes sectores. Y no es casualidad que en este recinto se encuentre la Escuela de Hospitalidad, Turismo y Artes Culinarias más importante del país y nos atrevemos a decir del Caribe. El potencial del sector turístico en combinación con nuestros recursos y el poder de nuestra gente realmente es incalculable. Les deseo que la jornada de hoy sea una de provecho para todos. Recuerden que siempre la Escuela de Artes Culinarias, la Universidad Ana G. Méndez, está para ustedes. Nuestro orgullo, nuestra razón de ser son nuestros estudiantes. Welcome.
Gracias por esas palabras. Definitivamente el sentimiento acá en Discover Puerto Rico y de todo el sector turístico es recíproco con esta institución. Así que mil gracias por sus palabras. Ahora, bien, ustedes han visto los números en el pasado. 2021 fue un año extraordinario sin duda para el sector turístico en Puerto Rico. Obviamente ha habido una colaboración mutua entre la compañía de turismo y Discover Puerto Rico y por eso vemos unos números extraordinarios. Pero la estrategia de traer visitantes a Puerto Rico va mucho más allá y hago hincapié porque los números están ahí. Como dice un amigo, los datos son los datos y el resto, ¿qué? Opiniones, ¿verdad? Así que, nada, con nosotros quiero presentarle a un señor que ha estado detrás de esas estrategias. Es nuestro principal oficial ejecutivo, el señor Brad Dean.
Buenos días y saludos a todos. We are incredibly excited and really honored to be here at Universidad Ana G. Méndez. Thank you to the leadership and the faculty for your continued investment in our island and our industry. And thank you to the students. Today is a great example of the hospitality that this university and this community provide. And every time I'm here, I walk away inspired by what you're doing, what you're accomplishing, and encouraged by the future. And thankfully, you are going to be the answers to many of the challenges we face. Here in Puerto Rico, we've enjoyed record levels of employment, and yet every business I talk to tells me that they are still understaffed. And the question they often ask us is, where's the talent for the future going to come from? And I think today we've got a good answer. A lot of it is right here. One of the challenges that we face as your DMO, Discover Puerto Rico, is not simply delivering great results. You'll hear about some of those today. But the question we ask ourselves continually, daily, sometimes hour by hour, is what do we do to make sure that we continue the record growth that we've enjoyed? If I were to pick two words that describe the last couple of years in travel and tourism, they would be muy interesante. The rate and pace of change is something that I've never experienced in my career. And it's not just the change that we anticipate, it's the things that are happening as we speak, sometimes seemingly daily, hour by hour, how our industry is quickly evolving. And so in an environment where things are changing so quickly, even though we've had 2 historic record-breaking years, and whether you consider records made by the number of overnight visitors, the revenues, the tax collections, or maybe the most important number of all, the number of people employed in leisure and hospitality, which is higher today than it's ever been in the history of Puerto Rico. The question we ask ourselves is, how do we make sure that continues? How do we make sure that the past couple of years aren't just a spike on a chart that doesn't duplicate, but rather, how do we use these 2 record-breaking years to lay a platform for future growth? Now, typically you might look to other destinations to try that, right? We might try to find other destinations that have accomplished what we've accomplished here in Puerto Rico in recent years, but honestly, I can't find one. Whether we look at the rest of the Caribbean, whether we look at maybe destinations in the US mainland, even beyond, there really aren't any destinations that I've identified that in facing the amount of adversity we've faced here in this island, from Zika and Maria to political challenges and bankruptcies to earthquakes and then just for good measure a global pandemic, and yet have been able to deliver record numbers over the past couple of years. There just aren't a lot of good models for that. If we were to chart a course for how do we accomplish this, how do we make sure that this record pace of growth continues, that the creation of jobs continues, we might actually follow the path of a pretty good musician, a guy by the name of Ernest. Now, most of you probably don't know Ernest, but you might know him by another name, Tito Puente Jr., Ernest Tito Puente. How many, just out of curiosity, by show of hands, how many recognize the name or the likeness Tito Puente? Now, just look at that. Just about everybody in the room has raised their hand. And yet this man was born 100 years ago this year. He was born in 1923. He died more than 2 decades ago. And yet here in this room, where I'm going to guess we have 4 or 5 different generations represented, nearly everybody recognizes him. So clearly his music and his identity transcended many generations. But beyond that, when you think of why he was so great and what he accomplished in his career, interestingly enough, there's a lot of parallels with what we're trying to accomplish at Discover Puerto Rico. So for example, one of the things that he was known for was continually adapting and evolving his style of music. Early on in his career, you would have heard sounds like this. Now, over time, that evolved to this. And then to this. And eventually, later in his career, you would have heard sounds like this. And most of us will always identify him with this. It's a fascinating progression of music that Tito Puente created. And we see the results here today when he can transcend so many destinations and be still so recognized more than 20 years after his death and on the 100th anniversary of his birth. No surprise to you that he is a legendary figure, not only for Puerto Rico, but many throughout the world. And at Discover Puerto Rico, we have to embrace that same sort of approach. I think one thing that defined Tito Puente's career and hopefully defines much of what we're delivering to the island of Puerto Rico is that age-old proverb that you can't change the direction of the wind, but you can change the way your sales are focused. And by changing our sales, then we're able to ensure that we're able to take advantage of the changes and get ahead of the tastes and influences and preferences that change in the consumer world, much like Tito Puente did. Now, another thing Tito Puente was very well known for was extending into new audiences, not only by changing and evolving his music, but by reaching out to many, many new music listeners. Of course, first it began with albums and then cassette tapes and then the digitalization of music, but also the audiences. He wasn't just a performer in the New York area or in Latin America. He became a national and international brand. Now, part of that was because you could find him everywhere, not just performing live music for audiences that he may have catered to for many years, but you could see him at the White House. You'd see him on Sesame Street. He was even featured in his own episode of The Simpsons. His entire career was defined in large part by being able to transcend generational lines and consumer boundaries that allowed him to reach and expand his musical career. And much like us at Discover Puerto Rico, you're going to hear today from our team about how we're trying to reach new audiences, whether it's meeting planners that haven't been here before and have never considered Puerto Rico for a meeting, whether it's travel consortia that typically book other islands in the Caribbean or Mexico and haven't sent clients to Puerto Rico, or just simply expanding the geographic boundaries of what we are able to accomplish, not only through additional funds like Peko was mentioning, but also through creative and innovative marketing strategies. Now, another key aspect of Tito Puente's legacy and the success of his career was that he was able to collaborate with a wide range of artists. I mean, his list of collaboration is a who's who of Latin, pop, and jazz music. Names like Julio Iglesias, Celia Cruz, Carlos Santana, just to name a few. And at Discover Puerto Rico, a big part of what we do is collaborating, both with partners on and off the island. You're going to hear from a few of those key partners today, like Access Cruise, Destination Analyst, Miles Partnership, who are thought leaders and creators in their space, leading our industry forward, and part of Team Puerto Rico that are helping us advance and expand what we're able to do. Now, Tito Puente also was very well known for not doing something. Whereas many artists have kind of caved in and sold out, he expanded into jazz and Latin jazz, the fusion of jazz and rock, contemporary music in the 70s and 80s. But the one thing he never did is he never strayed away from his Latin roots. That defined him as a composer, as a musician, and ultimately as the identity that we know today. And at Discover Puerto Rico, we recognize that while we have lots to promote, the beaches, the gastronomy, some of the greatest attractions throughout the Caribbean, we have to plant our flag in the brand that is Puerto Rico's rich, vibrant culture. And you'll hear more today about the results and the plans going forward for Live Boricua. Our hope is that visitors arrive as our guests, leave as our friend, and in between, they learn to not just visit Puerto Rico, but to truly experience what Puerto Rico is, and they learn the meaning of what it means to live Boricua. And of course, one other thing that Tito Puente was well known for, and that is that throughout his entire career, he was able to not only be a great musician, but a great humanitarian. In fact, one of the greatest achievements, according to many that knew him, was establishing a foundation late in his life that impacted so many children of Hispanic origins. And we're not a charitable organization, but we also recognize that we have to bring others along with us. And so we've seen that recently as we relaunched the chapter in Puerto Rico of the Hospitality Sales Marketing Association International, HSMAI, the foremost provider of networking and professional development for people in the hospitality and sales arena. And by the way, all of you, students and faculty included, are invited to participate. If you're interested in HSMAI, connect with any member of our team and we'll get you in touch with Janine Ortiz, who's leading that effort. You're also going to hear today really exciting news about the most innovative and award-winning programs that we've launched in our first 5 years, La IDEA, the Island's Digital Education Academy, which is an effort to take advantage of the change and opportunity that's been created and close that gap between the haves and the have-nots in the digital marketing space. Already we've impacted thousands of businesses through Puerto Rico, and this is just the beginning. Now, granted, a lot of differences between being a great musician and a great tourism destination. But if we could chart the same path that Tito Puente charted throughout his career, wouldn't it be great if, just like today, we think of him as such an iconic legend in the music industry? Wouldn't it be great if people in your role and my role many years from now look back at this time in this space and recognize that these record-breaking years were not just an aberration, they were not just the good old days, but rather a platform for launching an era of prosperity throughout Puerto Rico, using travel and tourism as an economic development tool, and together ensuring that the best days of our industry lie before us and not behind us. We are delighted to host you here today, excited about what lies ahead. And for us, it always starts with the research that guides our decision-making and the data and analysis that informs our analysis and our strategies. So nobody better to share that with you today than our Director of Research and Analytics, Alicia Valentine.
Thank you, Brad. I tell you, you will not find anyone who's able to build a better analogy than Brad Dean. So I'm sorry to say that is not my forte. Very straightforward numbers for you here today, but I'm sure you saw many of the impressive numbers in the video earlier today. And I just wanted to highlight some of those for you as they're worth celebrating. So first is that total visitor spending. So the direct visitor spending by non-resident visitors. This is provided by Tourism Economics, our leading provider of data in the industry worldwide. And they show that in 2022, we had $5.8 billion in spending by non-resident visitors. This is a 26% increase over last year's record and a 42% increase from pre-pandemic 2019. And while Discover Puerto Rico is certainly focused on those off-island visitors, the entire industry is made up of internal tourism, and certainly the internal visitors spending $3.2 billion gets us to that total number that we saw earlier of $8.9 billion in total visitor spending. This is 39% higher than in 2019. And though this is the second year in a row we've seen record visitor spending, the number of visitors in 2022 did exceed 2019, something that didn't happen last year. And these dramatic numbers are really spurring our record jobs numbers. Brad mentioned more employment in the industry than ever before. That number stands at 91,500. That's more than 10,000 jobs than we had pre-pandemic. Great news for the students in the audience and how the industry has been able to grow even faster than the rest of the economy, and now makes up a greater percentage of jobs on the island than ever before. And certainly 71% of total jobs are in the San Juan metro area, but what's exciting is to see the highest increases. In Aguadilla, they've seen a 31% increase in leisure and hospitality jobs from pre-pandemic levels, and in Ponce, a 23% increase in employment in the sector. And so while these jobs are the economic development engine that drives the economy of Puerto Rico, it's the tax collections that really allow us to invest in the future for continued growth. So with both record lodging demand and tax rates, the tax collections from the industry have skyrocketed in the last 2 years. And so this number from the Puerto Rico Tourism Company shows over $116 million in lodging taxes last year, a 52% increase from pre-pandemic levels. And these kinds of record-breaking results are very unique to Puerto Rico. This is not happening everywhere else in the industry. While our visitor spending was 38% higher than 2019, the U.S. average still remained 0.6% below that 2019 baseline. And the only other states that are seeing double-digit increases, you'll see here Maine, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, places that have far smaller visitor economies than Puerto Rico. And the U.S. Travel Association's recovery tracker evaluates 5 indicators for recovery. You'll see 4 of the 5 here because Puerto Rico is leading on these 4 indicators, and Puerto Rico is the outlier in the gains over 2019 compared to the rest of the U.S. Certainly, trip spending is the leading indicator, but we see the same pattern for hotel demand, leisure and hospitality jobs, and air passengers. You might be asking yourself, okay, you lead in 4 of the 5. What's the 5th? Auto trips. And I don't see a bridge, so we're not going to be leading in auto trips. So digging deeper into these metrics, travel spending is certainly the most dramatic, but air passengers remain 10% below 2019 throughout the rest of the U.S., while SJU had 9% more arrivals than before the pandemic. And our internal data from Airline Data Inc. shows us that more of these passengers are actually visitors rather than just residents. Our hotel demand across the U.S. remains below 2019, but Puerto Rico had 14% higher demand than pre-pandemic. And we know that many consumers really shifted into that rental market during the pandemic. So even that metric in the U.S. is 27% higher, but in Puerto Rico, we saw 81% higher demand for that rental market than pre-pandemic. So how is this happening? Discover Puerto Rico has been effective in defining the perception of the destination and generating interest in the island. When the organization began in 2018, there was extensive research about the position and the kind of messaging that consumers needed to bring us into their consideration set. And so we see some slow gains in those initial years, and especially some lift during the pandemic. But really, 2022 is where we saw extensive improvement. This is in likelihood to visit. We see the same pattern in positive perception of the destination. Strong growth in those first years when that baseline budget was implemented, significant lift in 2022 with those additional funds. So again, that investment of federal resources that Pico Suarez mentioned is especially important in being able to drive that message. So in the past year, Discover Puerto Rico has been able to reach over 33 million. I think you saw 35 million earlier. We measure every month the reach of the campaign, and we saw a significant lift in just January, so continuing to reach even more consumers. And this includes significant increases in the key performance indicators and the perception of visiting Puerto Rico. But we're also able to see that exposure to our marketing encourages a longer length of stay, spend while they're in the destination, and we're tracking this through some of the most advanced technology in the industry, monitoring consumer behavior after they've been exposed. But what's especially interesting, you'll see later in our visitor profile from destination analysts, is why consumers are choosing to visit. You'll see here this visitor profile enables us to see that the primary reason visitors are choosing Puerto Rico of all visitors is to visit friends and family, in addition to the weather. But those that are exposed to Discover Puerto Rico's marketing, the primary reason they're visiting is local culture, the defining characteristic of the Live Boricua campaign. And we know that about 1/3 of all visitors are seeing that paid marketing. So you'll see that through the profile, we're not able to only understand what motivates visitors, but how it's influencing their decision. And I've lost my place, I'm sorry. So especially exciting in terms of where we're able to really drive that consumer interest in setting that record demand. But what can we expect in the coming year? Tourism economics has really provided us with that forecasting that indexes our spending against that 2019 baseline. So for each category here, you'll see a number indexed against 2019 where 100 is the base. And looking at anything above 100 is above that 2019 base, anything below 100 is below that 2019 base. So for a little context, we'll start with 2020, and we'll see here that hotel spending was 42% that of 2019 in that height of the pandemic year. Rental spending, again, consumers were making different decisions at 81% of that 2019 level. And excursionists, really the cruise industry, 27%. And we'll see this continue to grow in 2021. We saw significant improvement, especially that rental market being 31%, even above pre-pandemic levels. And last year in 2022, the hotel market really surged with not only demand, but also their rates at 46% of visitor spending in those that are staying in hotels. But what do we expect for 2023? So the exciting news is that we expect all of these metrics to continue to improve, even with those problems mentioned earlier, including inflation and recession and spy balloons and wars in Europe. So how do we get here? So last week at the Marketing Outlook Forum, Tourism Economics President Adam Sachs forecasted that in Q3 we will officially be in recession, but it is anticipated to be a mild recession. And the hotel industry and the rest of the tourism industry is expected to climb even as the economy shrinks. So again, both hotels and rentals are expected to see modest year-over-year increases, but that cruise market will make significant gains, but still be well below their 2019 spending. But really where I want to end is where I started, just in terms of these gains being far outside of the norm. Again, using that base of 2019, we can see how in 2020, we were very similarly positioned to the rest of the US in terms of flat visitation well below 2019. But in 2021, we really saw performance surge, 15% above that pre-pandemic level. Last year, we are 39% over pre-pandemic levels when the rest of the US is really just back to even. And finally, what we anticipate for 2023 at 43% above 2019 spending levels. And again, this puts the rest of the US domestic spending at 11% above these numbers. So I was asked last week by the Director of Research for NYC & Co., which is the DMO for New York City, what is going on in Puerto Rico? How are you able to generate these kinds of numbers? And it's really easy to be modest, say, oh, we're just lucky and, happen to be very well positioned. We didn't just luck out. There's been lots of extensive work going into crafting the messaging and targeting that gets us here. So I know it's a lot of numbers, but we're measuring the industry and our marketing in every possible way. So this is really just the highlights, and I'm happy to take questions. Okay. Well, I think then, are you going to do it? Okay.
Thank you, Alicia. Me voy a venir acá ahora. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you, Brad, for those words. Ahora, son números formidables, aún cuando, como dijeron ellos, hay unos retos todavía allá afuera, retos mundiales que no están en nuestras manos, incluyendo que pues, una industria de crucero aún no está donde quisiéramos. Pero detrás de estos éxitos y esos números formidables, las cosas no pasan por casualidad, ¿verdad? El que no se anuncia, no se vende. Así que detrás de esa promoción y ese mercadeo, hay una persona aquí que tiene un resumen bastante abultado y tenemos suerte de contar con ella. Les dejo con Leah Chandler, nuestra principal oficial de mercadeo. Gracias.
My hair never looks as good as it does in that headshot, so apologies for disappointing you guys on that. But thanks so much, Edward. This was a really great lead-in to speak to our marketing initiatives. Over the last year, the DMO's new campaign, Live Boricua, delivered impressive results, proving to be the most successful Puerto Rico tourism marketing campaign ever. Live Boricua has generated millions of impressions and increased familiarity and consideration of visiting the island. Our internal team and agency partners delivered a master strategy from campaign development to our go-to-market strategy across paid, owned, and our earned channels. And this slide exemplifies some of those many wins just so far. Since its launch in May of 2022, over 106 creative variations of our Live Boricua campaign have run as advertisements across traditional and digital media, domestically and internationally. This campaign delivered depth and breadth necessary to highlight the beauty, the culture, and the experiences of the destination. The images you see here are just a handful of literally thousands of assets that we have developed as part of this campaign. Let's take a look now at one of our 30-second commercials that's currently running.
In Puerto Rico, we call ourselves Boricua. We're proud, passionate, and full of life. On our island, adventure finds you. Strangers aren't strangers for long. The size of the audience doesn't change the beauty of the music, and we celebrate every last ray of sun. Live Boricua.
We've spotlighted cultural moments, island product, and tent poles, addressed various audience groups, including MICE and LGBTQ+, and delivered seasonal and responsive advertising. Outfitted with, as you can see, gorgeous and compelling imagery, the campaign portrays the beauty of our regions and municipalities and our natural wonders and tourist attractions such as Distrito T-Mobile. The campaign allowed us to focus attention on Puerto Rico's key areas of opportunity, such as our unique food and culinary experiences, our hotel, short-term rental and luxury accommodations, and golf, beach, and adventure product. In the next video, we've compiled highlights from the campaign strategy, development, research, and launch to give you a well-rounded picture of how we brought the tourism industry's first values-based marketing campaign to life.
Discover Puerto Rico has remained steadfast in the face of many challenges, and in fact, positioned our destination to come back stronger than ever. We introduced not just a new campaign, not just a new way to think about Puerto Rico, but an entirely new way to think about experiencing the world. While a lot of people will tell you they live to travel, we believe you should travel to live. This is our moment. This is our story. This is our invitation. Live Boricua. Based in truth, backed by research. 8 markets, 16 groups, over 900 respondents. Affirmed by consumers and brought to life by the most passionate, authentic, inspired, and visionary team you can find, Boricuas themselves. We'll tell stories no one else can tell, of experiences no one else can offer, in places no one else can claim. Rooted in a simple belief that the Boricua way of life can make our visitors' lives more joyful, more passionate, more authentic, more memorable, and more inspired.
Live Boricua.
Above all, since the launch of the Live Boricua campaign, we continue to see growing interest in Puerto Rico correlated to awareness of the campaign with significant gains in likelihood to visit, positive perception, and in familiarity. Seeing positive results correlated to the campaign, we continue to grow our asset library. Over the last year, we have completed 50 productions, increasing our creative library to more than 5,000 still images and 100 hours of video. Some of the new assets captured include Distrito T-Mobile, our South and West regions, and capturing the holiday spirit on the island. 2022 was a year of expansion and growth for our paid media program, paired with tried and true tactics. Expansion and growth took many forms. Outside funding sources contributed to year-over-year investment and growth. We entered new markets with full funnel media support, inclusive of Spot TV. National addressable cable TV was launched that rocketed Puerto Rico into national scale media for the first time ever. We launched cinema advertising also for the first time ever, strategically flighted to run during blockbusters like Black Panther and Avatar, The Way of Water, while also funding our first ever LGBTQ+ paid media campaign. Towards the end of 2022, we optimized our market approach with ARP funds. Utilizing a variety of data, we narrowed that market set to the best 6 performing markets. For the first 6 months of this year, we removed national addressable TV in order to more deeply penetrate those new markets. And as the year progresses, we'll really consider how national media continues to play a role possibly for the second half of the year. But our eyes are also on calendar year 2024. As current federal funds allocated to the DMO are expended, we are at a risk of a very significant budget reduction that could take our media program to what we call a keep the lights on approach. This budget scenario would eliminate all new markets as well as national media, decreasing both our reach and our penetration. Our digital priorities today include driving revenue achieved by focusing on an audience within our mature markets in mid to low funnel tactics to ultimately drive that visitation. We focus also on reaching and engaging with new audiences within new markets through high to mid funnel tactics. We achieved a reach of over 723 million impressions served just in 2022. Examples of our digital media successes included in custom partnerships with Smithsonian, Afar, the New York Times, Atlas Obscura, and Condé Nast, as you see here. In late July, we launched our Spanish language website, which currently features nearly 300 natively translated pieces of content. This work was based off of 2 objectives. First, to offer inspiration, information, and trip planning tools to the island in our native language, and secondly, to effectively market to our LATAM markets in Spain. The success of the site has outpaced our expectations with nearly 650,000 page views so far and really, really incredible engagement. And our brand continues to mature and evolve, and with it, so must the website to maintain our industry-leading position. We undertook a refresh of the website to better align with that expression and create consistency across our digital ecosystem. This involved collaborative work between Discover Puerto Rico, our research partner, Destination Analyst, and our digital partner, Miles Partnership, to bring research and data to inform development and creative decisions. Since the update, the site continues to perform above all benchmarks and through 2022 drove nearly 3.2 million partner referrals. And our international footprint has continued to expand in the past year. Suitcase Magazine, through an integrated 360-degree campaign, showcased the story of Puerto Rico through beautiful earned media storytelling across multiple platforms. As a suitcase first, Puerto Rico was featured in the first ever 120-page dedicated issue, which included editorial articles from the beaches to our culinary delights. The issue was launched with a tastemaker event in London where over 180 attendees celebrated the issue. Condé Nast Traveler and Discover Puerto Rico also delivered 2 immersive events, one in Madrid and one in London. The events involved menus that were curated by local chefs, and both events were covered in print, online, and on social channels, reaching a combined audience of more than 3 million people in our international markets. And then National Geographic, in partnership with Discover Puerto Rico, created Beyond the Beaches, which aims to immerse the audience in the culture, history, and people of Puerto Rico in a multi-channel partnership that is going to last for 2 full years. Through this partnership, Puerto Rico is going to be elevated to National Geographic's highly engaged global audience, from a road trip diary to postcards from Puerto Rico. Community connection, National Geographic aims to develop a narrative to showcase the true nature of the island. The numbers are flashing that I'm out of time, but I'm going to keep going. Discover Puerto Rico has also recently begun a partnership with Rolling Stone in Espanol, collaborating to create top-tier content that celebrates the music scene in Puerto Rico. The partnership includes print and online coverage of Puerto Rican artists and will be running until June of 2023. Puerto Rico's special edition in the print and online magazine actually just launched this month. Discover Puerto Rico also recently began a partnership with JetBlue, which will run throughout the year. The launched incentive via Travel Gossip will be live from January through the end of March. We plan to engage the trade through training sessions and virtual webinars, and Discover Puerto Rico and JetBlue events for project managers are set to take place in London in March. And of course, earned media continues to be a cornerstone of the DMO's successes. Our impressions and ad value numbers were higher in 2022 compared to 2021 by an impressive 13.5% and 15% respectively. In 2022, we focused more on high value coverage, securing top tier placements very consistently alongside our partners at Ketchum. Here we've broken out some of our top wins by topic. Discover Puerto Rico remains a top warm weather destination for winter travel, while also garnering media attention from new outlets who want to explore the culture of the island. New activations such as the Live Boricua Marriott International collaboration and Sunshine Despair drove coverage and lots of media interest. To promote the island's record-setting year, again in 2022, Discover Puerto Rico distributed a 2022 Successes press release targeting travel, MICE, and national publications. The release highlighted all of this really impressive growth we've been talking about in incoming travelers, revenue, and local tourism employment specifically. Coverage so far has been seen in top outlets like Yahoo and trade like Travel Agent Central. For the second year in a row, Puerto Rico welcomed Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve with Ryan Seacrest. Puerto Rico was again home to the only Spanish language countdown on the show to ring in 2023. The show was hosted on the grounds of the Puerto Rico Convention Center and Distrito T-Mobile, resulting in 552 placements totaling over 3.2 billion impressions and counting. The DMO also activates in a number of emerging markets from Nashville to Detroit, hosting over 45 media total so far. Each of our Plus Up events hosted top-tier media and influencers, and we're educating them and their respective markets on what the island offers. These activations spur lots of conversations surrounding travel to Puerto Rico from regions that typically don't receive information from the destination and are not familiar with our value propositions. To continue our presence in emerging markets like Austin, we're going to be highlighting our values-based marketing initiatives on one of the biggest stages for marketers, which is South by Southwest. We'll be speaking in an expert panel at this very notable festival in March this year. Each year, the festival features various themes, including film, music, and comedy, and this year offers the first dedicated section to travel. Our panel is going to focus on values-based marketing and how that fuels travel. We'll be doing that alongside our partners at Ketchum and their sister agency, BBDO. And as you may remember, and you see out in the hallway, we partnered over the past year with the Pantone Color Institute to create the island's very own color-based, off of scientific data of the actual sun that shines on the island. Our latest chapter in this campaign was the launch of the Sunshine Route and Sunshine Shop, new and unique ways for visitors to experience sunshine and live Boricua on and off the island. In a tribute to Puerto Rico's own color, the Sunshine Route features several stops where explorers can experience the iconic sunshine through adventure, beauty, culture, fashion, and a lot more. So check out the Sunshine Shop when you're leaving today. We're getting a lot of really great coverage from that campaign. On island, the DMO has hosted several fam trips to target key media. Throughout the summer and fall, the DMO hosted top-tier media to explore the natural wonders and cultural offerings of the island. These visits resulted in coverage in top outlets as well as strengthened ongoing relationships with mainland media. Over the last couple of months, those media visits have focused on the island's long holiday traditions, gastronomic offerings, and our LGBTQ+ experiences. The New York Dinner Series was created to showcase Puerto Rican chefs, highlight cultural moments, and really create these connections with a very diverse clientele in the New York area while encouraging travel to the island. The DMO partnered with Don Q to discuss the island's rum culture when they're there, and we've had one successful event that took place last December, and we have several other dinners in the coming months. So looking towards what is ahead in earned media, our news engine team is focusing, of course, on Black History Month. We have Women's History Month coming up, along with a number of FAMs in the pipeline. And as Brad mentioned earlier, I am thrilled to share the results of La Idea. This is the Island Digital Education Academy. This award-winning program was launched in 2022 with the goal of helping tourism-related businesses improve their image and visibility on leading tourism and travel platforms such as Google, TripAdvisor, and Facebook. In Puerto Rico, we have a very wonderful and unique tourist offering, but a large number of our businesses are not necessarily showing this in the way they present themselves online. With La Idea, we're ensuring that those businesses are showcasing their best attributes to the world. Funded with American Rescue Plan funds, the ARP funds we've been mentioning, the program has been able to update the digital profiles of more than 3,600 businesses and points of interest across the island. The partnerships with municipalities is a key part of this program. We've conducted 46 industry workshops around the island to train businesses on how to enhance their digital presence and claim their profiles. We've also created a Google local guide for each municipality to compile and promote their main points of interest and attractions. So thanks to this collaboration with Miles Partnership, we've impacted hundreds of new businesses that were not part of our database at Discover Puerto Rico and added more than 1,800 new listings to the Discover Puerto Rico website. In less than a year, La Idea was recognized by leading travel organizations. As the second phase of La Idea, Discover Puerto Rico is creating new photo assets for businesses to showcase on their improved digital profiles. We're doing free photo shoots that include 360 images. Those are going to be provided to each of the businesses that completed phase 1 of the program. Simultaneously, the Google Street View footage of the main streets and attractions of the metro area and places like Distrito T-Mobile have already been updated and are showing millions of consumers the new and most beautiful parts of Puerto Rico. Day by day, this program truly is lifting the overall profile of Puerto Rico as a destination, improving the island's digital footprint, and driving proven economic impact. So if you're not already, we really look forward to working with you through La Idea. This concludes my portion of the presentation, so I'll turn it back to Edward.
Gracias, Leah. Thank you, Leah. Antes de continuar, quiero reconocer la presencia de Chiqui Santos, subdirectora del Departamento de Desarrollo Económico. A su lado está Mariela Balline, directora ejecutiva de la Autoridad para el Distrito de Centro de Convenciones. Y por ahí está también la directora de Turismo del municipio de Anfitrión Carolina, Michelle Hill. Si la ve por ahí. Por allá, ahí está. Gracias por estar aquí. Ya vieron el esfuerzo de promoción. Podemos tener toda la promoción del mundo, pero igualmente hay que cerrar la venta. Y como yo siempre digo a los amigos, o sea, el equipo de nosotros de ventas, liderado por el amigo Ed Carey, sale allá afuera todos los días con el cuchillo en la boca para cerrar la venta, porque estamos compitiendo con Islas Hermanas, con otros estados de Estados Unidos. Así que y ese hombre se tira a la calle todos los días a cerrar esa venta. Y él le va a dar una muestra de lo que estamos trabajando y de lo que viene por ahí. Y se ve muy bien. ¿Verdad que sí, Ed? Y Ed conoce a Puerto Rico porque lleva como 20 años, 25 años relacionado a nuestra isla. Adelante, Ed. Nuestro principal oficial de ventas.
What a great introduction. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of you for being here today, especially the students and the faculty of Ana Mendez. I was, like Peco, very impressed by the students, their poise and their presentation skills, because ultimately I believe we are all salespeople for the destination. So if we could perhaps talk about setting quotas after this meeting, that might be helpful in our new collaboration, but we'll work through that. So there we go. 2022 was a very positive year in the groups and events space in Puerto Rico. We hit a major milestone as over 1 million new lead room nights were generated in the year. That's a 35% increase over last year, 2021, and a full 50% over 2019. The demand has never been higher. And that allowed us to double the rooms, the group rooms booked in 2022, and beat what was a record year in 2019 by over 15%. So we're very encouraged about the future of meetings in Puerto Rico. And it turns out that the meeting industry shares that enthusiasm across the board. As you know, we have closely monitored meeting planner sentiment for the last several years, actually, and throughout the entire period of the pandemic and the subsequent recovery. The latest research from North Star Meetings and Cvent, which some of you may know is one of the industry's most widely utilized sourcing platforms, suggests that the value perception of face-to-face meetings has increased in the post-pandemic world. We're tired of being in front of the camera in our Zoom meetings. A full 67%, or roughly 2 out of every 3 meeting planners, believe that face-to-face meetings have become somewhat or significantly more valuable to their overall business development strategies. So the timing could not be any better for all of us to be at the top of our game. Planners were asked to rank the level of satisfaction they're feeling with the support that they are receiving from the suppliers they use to create these group events. And this graph shows that hotels, DMCs, and DMOs have shown steady growth in customer satisfaction levels, with the DMOs leading the way. And the level of confidence they have in all of us is so critically important because meeting and event planners have other problems on their minds these days. While they are very optimistic about the number of new meetings, they're just not sure if they will be able to attract the attendance numbers that they have enjoyed in the past. In fact, only 29% believe that they will have more people attend their meetings than they had last year. And while budget, obviously, is always a concern, we're also seeing a lot of chatter about return on experience. It is becoming a critical metric that meeting planners are looking to measure. And the good news is that we believe that Puerto Rico can be well positioned to address these concerns. So one of the most important things that we can do moving forward is to continually refine our messaging to address what we know and are hearing is most important to meeting planners today. We can demonstrate through historical data that Puerto Rico will drive attendance numbers. And of course, once these attendees are on island, our ability to ensure the return on experience with all that we know we offer is second to none. So we're delivering this message in the marketplace through expanded partnerships with key third parties, sourcing platforms, aggressive promotions, and a very robust travel and trade show calendar. But the one thing we know that drives results more than anything else is bringing buyers to the island to see for themselves. Our group, leisure, and destination experience teams have toured with literally hundreds of meeting planners, travel advisors, and influencers all over the island. And between now and the end of our fiscal year, which is this coming June, we'll be hosting 19 additional FAM trips, including the trip that we just operated last week with 22 meeting planners who who are actively sourcing new events, and many of whom had not been to the island in the past. And we talk about this quite a bit. In 2022, our team brought what was the largest single fam trip the island has ever seen. We hosted over 700 meeting planners at, you may have been part of it, the Connect Marketplace last May. And events like that and the Professional Conference Managers Association Partners Summit, the U.S. Travel Association's board meeting showed the industry that we're serious about meetings. And we can compete with any destination. And 2023 is going to be even better. Events like the American Society of Travel Advisors Global Conference will expose Puerto Rico to travel advisors, agency owners, cruise lines, airline partners, and major travel consortia. The Society of American Travel Writers and the Travel Bloggers Exchange will bring hundreds of writers and influencers and media to the island. Prestige Global Meeting Source and Destination Caribbean North Stars event will bring together buyers from numerous corporations with the potential to book business in Puerto Rico. And the IGLTA conference is addressing another significant growth market for the island. And while we were talking about travel advisors, it's always been very important for us to focus on the key partners, the ones we know can produce within the industry that have proven their ability for Puerto Rico. The list of co-op partnerships that we intend to continue to foster and work with produced over $155 million in sales in 2022 with an investment of only $1 million in shared marketing campaigns. And it's really encouraging to see that as of January 31st, this is a beautiful graphic, for the first half of 2023, our co-op partners and travel advisors that are using the Global Distribution System, the GDS, have booked 44% more business than they had at this same time last year. And that's before we host the ASTA convention I just spoke about. And although we lack the funding to actively market in many of the countries you see listed, let me move that. Although we lack the funding to actively market many of the destinations listed here, we can extend our reach in those select countries by working through our existing consortia and key wholesalers who work with the airlines that provide service to Puerto Rico from these markets. And lastly, we will continue to enhance our Puerto Rico Travel Expert education platform and loyalty program. With nearly 30,000 advisors currently enrolled in this program in both Spanish and English languages, it has proven to be extremely effective in creating loyal ambassadors for the island. And just as the major airlines, the hotel chains, the car rental companies have learned, rewarding your best customers just makes good business sense and drives return visitation. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Ricardo, and I thank you again for your time.
Saludos. Sé que por ahí también está Marisol Vélez, la directora de turismo del municipio de San Juan. ¿Dónde está? Debe estar por ahí. ¿Ah? Allá, saludo Marisol. De hecho, aprovecho, una de las convenciones que se menciona ahí es la de ASTA, y aquí tenemos al amigo Iván, que es el principal acá del director de ASTA de capital local, que nos visita desde Mayagüez. Gracias por estar acá. Bueno, ahora saben ustedes que para los que están en esta industria, ustedes los dueños de hoteles, de paradores, de short-term rentals, los que están en las atracciones, a ustedes les interesaría saber quién los visita, quién viene a Puerto Rico, cuál es el perfil de ese visitante, de dónde viene, cuánto ingresa, qué edad tiene. Todo nos interesa saberlo porque así nosotros ajustamos y nos acomodamos a esas estrategias, ¿verdad? Así que con nosotros hoy nos visita una persona que ha estado trabajando en el perfil de visitantes para nosotros, que toma espacio de un año, y ella se llama Erin Francis Cummings, que es la presidenta de Destination analyst. Le damos la bienvenida. Gracias.
Leah, not only does my hair not look as good, but it's not as blonde either. So if you prefer your tourism researchers blonde, my apologies. It is my great honor to present some of the top takeaways from a profile study we conducted on visitors to Puerto Rico. The clicker, thank you. So our company, Destination Analysts, we are an independent market research firm that helps travel and hospitality organizations around the world through deep insights into their customers, brands, and marketing performance. We're celebrating our 20th year providing tourism research to this industry, and we have the great privilege of serving over 200 destinations, which Puerto Rico is far and away the best. I think you'll all agree. Before presenting the learnings from Puerto Rico's visitors, I'd like to quickly share some greater context about the traveling consumer right now from our company's ongoing research. Americans are actually really feeling the love for travel as economic anxieties have somewhat abated recently. In fact, Americans' level of excitement to travel is at a 3-year high. 84% of American travelers currently have trip plans, and 30% say that the present is actually a good time to spend on leisure travel, and that's the highest it's been in 6 months. Quality time with loved ones, creating memories, and experiencing new places are top travel motivators. However, rewards points and loyalty programs are increasing in importance, and that's one of the indicators of travelers increasingly prioritizing value. So keep these larger trends in mind as you consider Puerto Rico's own visitors' perceptions, motivations, and behaviors. My focus today is on what has been learned and what that means about where the island is headed as a premier tourism destination. I'll present the study's key findings and then the consequent implications of the geographic areas Puerto Rico visitors come from, visitors' trip purpose, how long they stay on the island, their motivations for visiting, the diversity of visitors' identities, and the importance of repeat visitation and communicating a value proposition. For your knowledge, this study of Puerto Rico's recent visitors was designed to garner detailed trip characteristics, from motivations to lodging choices to activities to overall length of stay, provide travelers evaluations of Puerto Rico's destination attributes, look at travel planning resource usage, collect demographic and spending information, and gauge visitor satisfaction. The methodology that was employed for this study was an in-market intercept survey of visitors age 18 and older, conducted throughout 2022 at San Juan Airport, Old San Juan, Ponce, and Distrito T-Mobile. In total, 1,607 visitors were surveyed in that effort. We also study recent Puerto Rico visitors through other data sources, including online surveys and mobile location data, adding tens of thousands of additional visitor data points, and these data are integrated into the overall visitor profile. So let's get into that visitor profile. Again, my presentation today is structured with sharing a key learning from the data and then what the implication of that learning may be in Puerto Rico's tourism strategy. Let me start with visitor origin. In 2022, mostly all visitors to Puerto Rico were from somewhere in the United States, 94% of them. Among those who were international visitors, the top source countries included Canada, Spain, the United Kingdom, and Colombia. When we look exclusively at your vacation visitors, essentially your most marketable audience, the domestic share versus international is even more pronounced. Thus, while international visitors are really important emerging markets and certainly represent incredible opportunity, the implication of this learning is that Discover Puerto Rico's leisure marketing efforts do remain largely US focused, as it is the single greatest source of visitation. Let's look at length of stay. In 2022, across all your visitor types, the average length of stay in Puerto Rico was 5.8 days. But as you may expect, length of stay among your visitors varies by their trip purpose. Visitors to Puerto Rico on the island for business had the shortest average length of stay, followed by leisure visitors, and as is typical, those that came to visit friends and relatives have the longest average length of stay. But a reduced cruise market in 2022 caused the average length of stay of visitors to skew longer than what it had historically been the norm. With your cruise market now rebounded, the average length of stay among your vacationing visitors will likely decrease in 2023 since cruise visitors tend to stay a shorter time period on the island. Let's look at trip purpose. The profile study confirmed the majority of Puerto Rico's visitors continue to be vacationers. Nearly 2/3 of 2022 visitors came to the island specifically for vacation purposes. The volume of other trip types are much lower. Visiting friends and family, 13%, those coming from other personal reasons, 8%, business and convention, 7%. Again, lower than your vacation. So, with the high proportion of vacationers, marketing leisure travel is really critical to maintaining demand for Puerto Rico. This chart you're seeing is showing the other destinations your visitors considered before ultimately selecting Puerto Rico. Overall, nearly 40% said that they did indeed consider other destinations before choosing to vacation here. Top competitors are Florida, other Caribbean islands, and Mexico. Leisure marketing efforts help keep Puerto Rico at the forefront of travelers' minds in an increasingly competitive tourism landscape and help push potential visitors from destination inspiration to consideration and ultimately visitation here. The visitor profile research found that 1/4 of visitors to Puerto Rico in 2022 are of Puerto Rican heritage. So what's the implication of this learning? When we analyze diaspora visitors, we see how important they are to local economies. This chart is showing the regions of the island and the percent of Puerto Rican diaspora visitors who went to each of these regions on their trip. That's the yellow bars. And we compare that to non-diaspora visitors, which are the red bars. Puerto Rican diaspora visitors have a more diverse geographic distribution, being much more likely to visit the southwest, north, and central mountain regions. Their dispersion throughout the island is a benefit, bringing visitor dollars to those local economies. Even though Puerto Rican diaspora visitors' primary trip purpose was somewhat more likely to be for visiting friends and family than vacation, their trip spending is still significant. Their per-day lodging spend may be lower compared to non-diaspora visitors, but diaspora visitors spend more here on shopping, car rentals, and transport. In addition, from marketing performance research that we've also conducted for Discover Puerto Rico, we know that diaspora visitors are quite marketable with tourism advertising. They're more likely to recall seeing ads for Puerto Rico tourism compared to non-diaspora visitors. And diaspora visitors exposed to Discover Puerto Rico advertising are even more likely to be influenced by these ads to come visit. In fact, 63% of that group said such advertising was important to their ultimate decision to visit here. That's 19% higher than, or 19 points higher than others. Okay, visitor activities. When we look at the top activities leisure visitors consume while in Puerto Rico for their trips, that's what this chart is showing you. We see that the vast majority went to the beach and restaurants and bars. More than half went shopping and swimming. But despite these being the most common activities, they do not, however, necessarily comprise the key motivating factors as to why these visitors chose to come to Puerto Rico. One could say that weather and scenic beauty are the minimum for sun and sand vacation destinations. Yet culture, atmosphere, and cuisine can be just as important while also serving as critical differentiation factors for the destination. When we look at the top destination selection factors among Puerto Rico's leisure visitors, as shown on this chart, more than 1/3 came for local culture and or the island's overall ambiance and atmosphere. To maintain or grow market share, it's imperative that Puerto Rico continues to differentiate its product from other beach destinations, showcasing the culture, history, and atmosphere that make it utterly distinct among tourism destinations. Now looking at racial identity among Puerto Rico's leisure visitors. 2/3 identify as white or Caucasian, about 1 in 5 identify as Hispanic or Latino, and similarly, about 1 in 5 identify as Black or African American. Asian identifying represents 5%. So relative to other US destinations, Puerto Rico has an ethnically diverse visitor base. What this tells us is this. With a diverse visitor base already, and with the increasing importance of diversity and inclusion to traveling consumers overall, it's important to continue to position Puerto Rico as and provide a visitor experience that is a welcoming destination. This chart is showing recent visitors' ratings of Puerto Rico as welcoming, segmented by racial identity. Nearly all said Puerto Rico was welcoming, including across every racial and ethnic group. This finding implies Puerto Rico should continue to feature a diverse array of visitors in its marketing to highlight the welcoming and open nature of this destination, while also acknowledging the diversity of visitors that are currently coming here. Visitor satisfaction. The visitor profile research found that satisfaction with the visitor experience here and thus likelihood to return to Puerto Rico are extremely high. 98% of leisure visitors said they were satisfied with their trip, and 96% said they are likely to return to the island in the future. So what does this learning imply? With such high satisfaction and desire to return among recent visitors, this group of travelers offers an important opportunity. These are the low-hanging fruits, with a certainly higher likelihood for conversion to come back. In 2022, just 49% of leisure visitors to Puerto Rico were repeat visitors. So in a time marked by economic anxiety, this group, the ones that have been here before, is an opportunity for Puerto Rico to use them to sustain visitation in the near term. And one final learning. Travel prices are rising, as shown by this chart mapping the average daily hotel rate in Puerto Rico and the yellow line there, and the average round-trip airfare cost from the US in red. The average cost of a vacation to Puerto Rico is increasing. Average round-trip airfares are in line with 2015 prices, having grown 38% year over year. Similarly, hotel rates continue to increase and are up 12% compared to a year ago. So this means Puerto Rico will want to increase its value perception. Value perceptions are incredibly important for a destination, oftentimes the most important attribute when traveling consumers are selecting a vacation destination. Value can be increased by increasing quality while maintaining costs, or by reducing costs while maintaining quality. Because travel costs continue to rise, it's critical for destinations to focus on the quality component, highlighting what makes Puerto Rico unique, showcasing the vibrancy of the destination and the breadth of product offerings will continue to maintain marketplace presence and top-of-mind awareness among top traveler segments. So, in summary, domestic leisure travelers are the foundation of the visitors here. The average visitor length of stay was longer in 2022 because of market conditions. Diaspora visitors are important for dispersion across the island, play a critical role in the visitor economy, and can be particularly influenced by tourism marketing. Culture and atmosphere help differentiate Puerto Rico as a destination brand from other beach destinations. Puerto Rico's leisure visitors are diverse. Showcasing the diversity in marketing materials will be a true strength. Repeat visitors offer an important opportunity for conversion in uncertain economic times. And with increasing travel prices, it's important to focus on a value proposition. It's very much a pleasure to share these important findings about your visitors with you. May they continue to serve your success. Thank you so much.
Gracias, Francis. Thank you very much. Bueno, nuestra próxima invitada nos va a hablar un poquito sobre un tema que a ustedes les interesa mucho y que últimamente está todavía fuera en discusión pública. Ella nos va a hablar un poquito, nos va a dar una perspectiva dónde está la industria de cruceros ya a un nivel más global. Esto, si usted es un dueño de un hotel, operador o está en esta industria, esto es un tema que usted le tiene que poner el oído. Es bien importante que ustedes sepan de esto. Así que les dejo con Shannon McKee. Ella es la presidenta de Access Cruise.
Thank you, everyone. I seem to have the same problem as Leah and Aaron with my hair, but, you know, I give up. We're being in the salt water. I gave up completely this morning. Anyway, my name is Shannon McKee with Access. I'm the president of Access Cruise, and I've had the opportunity to be working with Discover Puerto Rico for the last few years, since 2000. 2019. So what I wanted to do today is just kind of talk to you a little bit about what's happening in the cruise industry right now and where the lie for Puerto Rico. So before I get started, I should say that I am the cruise lady, and I know that we've been sitting here for a few hours. So since I'm the cruise lady and I used to be a cruise director, I went ahead and put bingo cards under your seats. So who's ready to play bingo? Anybody? No? Okay. So let me understand my audience. How many of you have taken a cruise before? Oh, wow. Pretty much everybody. How many of you would like to take a cruise? Yes, that's what I like to see. Well, there is a lot going on with the cruise industry, and there's a lot of opportunity with the cruise industry. So let's take a look at what's happening right now. So what we see right now and what has happened is there's been unprecedented growth since the 1960s, which was completely stopped with the pandemic. So we were the only industry that was completely shut down for almost 18 months. It was really, really remarkable what happened. But what we have seen since then is that we've seen this rebirth of the cruise industry, and they are coming back strong. So here coming up, as the industry is returning, they're more efficient ships is what we see. The cruise industry didn't stop just because the sailing stopped. They kept going, they kept building, and their ships are better and more efficient than they've ever been. And in fact, as of November of 2022, we have 85 brands that are back on the high seas. And what's interesting is we're going to see a lot of new brands also entering into the marketplace. And so what we saw is back in 2019 that there were 29.7 million passengers expected to sail, whereas in 2022, or excuse me, in 2022, it's 27, I got my numbers wrong, 29.7 in 2022. So we see the growth is still there. Now, the challenge that the cruise industry has had this year is while the ships are back at sea, they're not still fully at capacity. What we're hearing from the cruise industry as a whole is we see the contemporary brands, they are full. So if you look at your Carnival and your Royal Caribbean, they are full, but if we look at some of our premium and luxury brands, they're still struggling to fill those ships. So those numbers are not really accurate. We're seeing probably a lower number that came in 2022 than what has been reported. But the good news is that we have new ships launching here in 2023. In fact, there are 66 new ships coming on the high seas through 2028, with a forecast of almost 40 million people going to sail by 2027. So we have new luxury and expedition brands coming out. In fact, the Four Seasons just launched their new brand, or announced their new brand that will launch. We also have the Orient Express that has announced that they're going to be launching a new brand. So you can see that there's this immense opportunity coming out of the cruise industry, and we're seeing that from a variety of different areas. So the cruise lines have continued to invest in state-of-the-art state-of-the-art ships, and also signs point to a full recovery. So that's really exciting. Here's to take a look at the growth of the world cruise fleet. As you can see, it's growing, growing, growing. This came from Cruise Industry News. What I wanted to look at, though, is the way the industry is set up. The industry is set up, the way I look at the industry, at least, being in the industry now for over 30 years, is I look at it by the different kinds of brands. We have the contemporary brands, the premium brands, then we have the luxury and expedition brands. And the reason why I break it down this way is because it really talks about the opportunity that we have to build growth in any destination. So if you look at here, the contemporary brands account for almost 70% of the capacity on the high seas, followed by the premium brands at 22%, and then a very small percentage goes into the luxury and budget brands. Now, when we start digging even deeper into the cruise industry, now we break it down by conglomerates. And I look at the conglomerates as Carnival Corporation. They have 100 ships. You have Royal Caribbean, you have MSC, and you have Norwegian Cruise Line. Those are the big four cruise conglomerates that are going to provide you the capacity to the destination. So those are the most important of the brands that are going to build that capacity as we move forward. So if you look at this, Carnival Corporation, and then you can see what the growth strategy is for each of these brands. So you can see that Carnival Corporation, they just announced that they are slowing down just a little bit as the cruise lines really have to dig themselves out of the debt that was created during their shutdown. So they are slowing down a little bit is what they've announced. But the one to watch, I think, very importantly, is MSC Cruises. And the reason MSC Cruises is a little bit different than everybody else is because they were so diversified. They are not only cruise, but they were also container company. So because of that, and because of that diversification, they have a lot of money, and they are spending a lot of money right now with new ships. They're launching their new brand, the Explorer Journeys. So they are definitely one of the big brands to watch, and you're going to see this exponential growth coming out of them, which is huge opportunity for us. They are also an international brand, so they are very well positioned throughout Europe, and they're really trying to break into the U.S. market. And as they try to break into the U.S. market, they're spending lots and lots of money on trying to attract those new visitors. So, you know, one of the points that was made earlier today was the fact that the international marketplace is one of the marketplaces that there's a lot of opportunity for Puerto Rico. So I think that there's a nice connection there. Next, I look at the major sailing regions. So if you look at the major sailing regions, the Caribbean has always been number one. You know, from the beginning when this started back in the 1960s, it has always been number one. Now, we have seen growth come out of the Mediterranean. You know, Asia was supposed to be the next big thing, and they were going to be coming up on everything. But of course, Asia has remained in many cases shut down. China is still very lagging behind because of the pandemic, only beginning to emerge as the cruise industry recovers. However, we do see the Mediterranean, we do see Alaska here, but the Caribbean continues to be the number one dominating region that the cruise ships sail. And one of the reasons for this, and you can see here with Clea also talking about the trends of Caribbean and Bermuda and the Bahamas, is the source market. Whenever the cruise lines seem to get in trouble, because most of them are U.S. brands, they pull their ships close to home. And so that's the reaction. They did this back in 2001, they did it again in 2008 when we saw the recession, and they did it in the pandemic. The first thing they do is they pull them close to home. And as they pull them close to home, because you have the drive market, that's how they're going to fill and source their ships, because about 50% of all the capacity on cruise ships comes from the North American marketplace. So you can see here from the major brands that I talked about, Carnival, Royal, Norwegian, Celebrity that are here, the majority of their capacity remains in the Caribbean. That is their number one marketplace that they're placing their ships, and they're going to continue to do that. So here we see that it is a North American market primarily, 51%. So what are we going to look out for in 2023? And where are the opportunities for Puerto Rico in 2023? Well, first of all, there's a lot of new ships coming on the high seas. We see 20 new ships coming out just this year with MSC, with Carnival. We see the Explorer Journeys going to launch. We have new startup lines. As I said, we have the Orient Express. We have the Four Seasons that is launching. And I believe there's some more to come. MSC and Explorer Journeys, which I already talked about, huge opportunity coming out of those two brands. We also have Crystal Cruises re-emerging. She shut down during the pandemic, however, she's been purchased, and she is starting up again. Then we have the secondhand marketplace. So we're going to lose some ships, but those ships, which often will go into the budget marketplace or go over to Europe, because we want the larger, more efficient ships that have the sustainability initiatives that are coming into place. Expedition and luxury markets are also going to grow exponentially. Disney Cruise Line is another one to watch because they are growing. They just bought a new ship. They just launched a new ship. So there's some interesting growth coming out of Disney Cruises. And finally, Disney Cruises is making a blip on the screen for Disney Corporation, which in the past, Disney Cruises has just kind of been a side business for them. But they're really starting to come into their own as a cruise line. So I think we're going to see some new and exciting initiatives coming out of Disney this year too. We have the new ship trend, obviously bigger and better, expedition. We have sustainability initiatives. And I think the other one that we really need to be cognizant of in Puerto Rico is shore power. That goes into the infrastructure, the power of the infrastructure. I was just at a conference last week, and one of the things that everybody asked, do you have shore power? Do you have shore power? And I think that's going to be one of the things that we really have to watch closely, because the ships, as they become more fuel efficient, they're going to be looking at the shoreside infrastructure when they come in and making decisions from time to time on who has what and how they can support the infrastructure. So responsible tourism has been all the rage over the last year or so, not year I shouldn't say, for some time now, and it continues to be a driving source as we come out of this pandemic. And then of course the more fuel efficient ships, LNG powered ships, we have ships now, all of the Princess and Holland America fleets have been taken back in, they've been retrofitted so that they have the opportunity for shore power. So in essence, I cut it a little bit short here, but in essence, I think that from what my understanding is that we are down in cruise this year, but that's okay. I think that the opportunity is to come back. I think as the ships start to ramp back up, as we continue to build the marketplace here and opportunities, improve upon the infrastructure, that the ships will come back. There's always a swing, that pendulum swing from the Eastern Caribbean to the Western Caribbean. It will come back to the Western Caribbean. And with the work that's being done with Discover Puerto Rico, we are already collaborating with Celebrity Cruises to make sure that we're getting those messages out so that we can continue to drive demand in the cruise industry as well. So that is my presentation. I want to say thank you to everybody for having me today. I'll stick around afterwards if anyone has any questions, and if not, I'll turn things over back to Edward. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Bueno, la casa sigue llena todavía, así que vamos bien. Hemos hablado de resultados, hemos hablado de la campaña, de nuestro mercadeo, de ventas, hemos hablado del perfil del visitante, de cruceros, y ahora vamos a ponerle la cherry encima del frosting, y hemos tratado de componer un panel para que nos hable un poquito de cuál es la perspectiva mirando hacia el futuro. No tienen una bola de cristal, porque no veo a Marga con una bola de cristal, ni veo a mis compañeros acá, pero son gente que están en la industria y la conocen muy bien. Así que en la medida que lo vaya mencionando, por favor, vayan subiendo. Primero llamo a María Margarita López, subdirectora de la Compañía de Turismo de Puerto Rico. Llamo a Mariela Ballines, que era directora ejecutiva del Distrito para el Centro de Convenciones. Llamo a Stanley Tapia, uno de ustedes aquí, director de la Escuela de Hotelería y Turismo. Y Jorge Hernández, que anda por ahí, que es el presidente de Aerostar. Pero acá, al amigo Jorge, que es una alegría verlo acá hoy. Y estará moderando este panel el amigo Ricardo Cortés Chico.
Bueno, saludos. Bienvenidos a todos. A mí personalmente me gustaría tener dos cosas, una reacción de ustedes en cuanto a lo que escucharon, pero específicamente me interesa hacer una pregunta a Hernández. Específicamente, el perfil del visitante, me imagino que vio la información que se virtió. ¿Es algo similar a lo que ustedes perciben en el aeropuerto? Cuando usted lo vio, pensó, sí, esto tal vez está bien, está mal, ¿cómo usted lo catalogaría?
Bueno, primero que nada, buenos días, ¿verdad? Y gracias, un placer estar aquí con todos ustedes en la mañana de hoy. En efecto, yo creo que lo que estamos viendo, sí, hay una consistencia en la información. Cuando hablamos, por ejemplo, del perfil del viajero y de la composición de viaje entre doméstico e internacional, pues en efecto, esos son los porcientos que en efecto estamos viendo nosotros, ¿verdad? Que es un porciento muy importante ese tráfico doméstico, ¿verdad?, de Estados Unidos, que en el caso de la encuesta daba un 94%, en el caso que vemos nosotros de lo que vimos, ¿verdad?, en cuanto a estadísticas específicas nuestras, estaba cerca de ese 93% para el año pasado, así que en efecto estamos viendo hay una consistencia en la información. Y en cuanto al perfil del pasajero, ¿verdad?, ¿Qué pasajero estamos viendo? Sí, hay muchas similitudes. Hemos notado un incremento en lo que se llama el leisure travel en estos últimos años. Se ha visto un incremento y es posiblemente el driver principal de esos aumentos que estamos viendo en los volúmenes de tráfico hoy día.
Tal vez esto sea un buen momento para abordar entonces a Marga sobre el tema. Sé que digo, te dije Marga, pero es Margarita López, sobre el tema, porque sé que hubo unos anuncios recientemente en cuanto a nuevos viajes ida y vuelta de San Juan y los aeropuertos regionales. Si pudieras expandir un poquito más de qué se trata y qué se podría estar esperando en este año 2023.
Pues sí, buenos días. Pues hoy se anunció que Spirit está aumentando nuevos destinos que nos estarán visitando de Estados Unidos a Puerto Rico y aumentando a su vez frecuencias de destinos que ya nos están sirviendo. Al igual que hace 2 semanas, Frontier hizo lo mismo, anunció nuevos destinos, incluyendo uno internacional como es Cancún, que no teníamos un vuelo directo hace 5 años. Y aparte de eso igual, aumentando frecuencias y nuevas rutas, tanto en aeropuertos Luis Muñoz Marín como en aeropuertos regionales. Esto es sumamente importante para el destino porque nos trae nuevos mercados que no servíamos anteriormente, nos funciona también para eventos y convenciones que se llevan a cabo en Puerto Rico. Y en su fin, o sea, el estar en nuevos destinos pues nos hace más un mercado mucho más competitivo.
Pues lo tiramos entonces a donde Mariela. Mariela, básicamente lo mismo, esto abre puertas para la llegada de más pasajeros, hacer el destino un poquito más accesible y así poco a poco la posibilidad de la llegada de más pasajeros se puede hacer una realidad. El distrito, ¿cómo ustedes ven el distrito encajando en todo esto, este ecosistema en este próximo año?
Buenos días a todos. Antes que nada, gracias mil por la invitación. Te puedo decir que el crecimiento del distrito de convenciones ha significado, ¿verdad?, el tener un impacto directo en los números que estamos viendo. Yo creo que nosotros hemos logrado complementar esa oferta de ese visitante que viene a celebrar su convención a Puerto Rico, logrando que el distrito específicamente se reconozca no solamente como un distrito de convenciones, sino como un distrito de entretenimiento. Y se ha logrado un balance entre ese mercado, ¿verdad?, serio que viene a Puerto Rico a atender algún tipo de gestión relacionada a negocios y combinarlo logrando un balance perfecto de que esa misma persona pues logre tener una experiencia en el campo del entretenimiento sin precedentes y principalmente concentrado en un área para esas personas que no tienen mucho tiempo, ¿verdad?, y que nos visitan por tiempo corto. Así que yo creo que lo que el distrito abona a esa fórmula es que nos pone en un estandarte de relevancia dentro de lo que es la industria del entretenimiento y dentro de lo que es lograr que nos miren, no solamente, ¿verdad?, en el caso específico de la agencia que yo tengo el privilegio de dirigir, como una alternativa para recibir grupos y convenciones, sino como una alternativa que va a hacer que esa convención que nos escoja tenga una experiencia única y que posteriormente entonces nos convertamos en una posibilidad de que vengan a vacacionar a Puerto Rico.
Me gustaría también que hablara un poquito de los otros venues, porque el componente musical también es uno que llama mucho la atención. No sé cómo están tal vez las reservas o cómo se aspecta ese movimiento de ofrecimientos artísticos en los otros venues que ustedes manejan.
Ok, cuando yo termine se van a dar cuenta de que yo tengo el mejor trabajo, ¿verdad? Pero pues eso es aparte. Que no conocen mucho del distrito, pues la autoridad del distrito de convenciones es una agencia del gobierno que administra lo que es el centro de convenciones, lo que es el Coliseo de Puerto Rico, Bahía Urbana, el antiguo casino y el área del distrito donde ubica el centro de convenciones per se. En el tema de la industria del entretenimiento, pues para que tengan una idea, esta industria representa $2 billones en la economía de Puerto Rico todos los años y tiene el potencial de generar alrededor de 30,000 empleos. Y esos son números, ¿verdad?, importantes en esta industria. No es un secreto que en la actualidad pues los principales exponentes del género urbano son puertorriqueños, o sea, nosotros contamos con Daddy Yankee, con Bad Bunny, Wisin y Yandel, Ozuna, y si sigo pues no termino. Y este nicho, este mercado nos ha acostumbrado a que las mejores presentaciones que ellos hacen las hacen en casa. Y eso crea la expectativa de que cuando aquí se anuncia un concierto por parte de ellos, pues las personas que no viven en Puerto Rico quieren venir a Puerto Rico a ver ese concierto. Ya nosotros estamos en conversaciones con productores para lograr un esfuerzo junto al DMO de crear paquetes promocionales cuando se hagan este tipo de anuncios, incorporar lo que es una vacación con el disfrute de un evento en Puerto Rico. Y contestando tu pregunta, pues las agendas del Centro de Convenciones y del Coliseo de Puerto Rico están imposibles, cosa que los alegra muchísimo. Y ya estamos viendo una tendencia, por lo menos de los productores locales, a considerar hacer conciertos días en semana. Acabamos de pasar Ozuna, que estuvo 5 días de semana corrido, y eso pues es indicativo de que en efecto pues la agenda está compleja y de que cualquier noche de la semana es buena para pariciar.
Bueno, y esos eventos son atendidos por, obviamente, personal de aquí, que muchos de ellos se forman en las universidades locales. Y tenemos aquí a Stanley Tapia, el director de la Escuela de Artes Culinarias y Hospitalidad de Ana G. Méndez. Y lo que me gustaría preguntarles es cómo tú percibes, cómo ves la academia insertándose y teniendo una interacción continua con la industria, de modo de que los estudiantes estén alineados con las necesidades industriales, que se alineen también con las ofertas de empleo. Usted me dirá.
Excelente. Primero que nada, gracias por la oportunidad y bienvenidos a todos aquí a su casa, la Universidad Ana G. Méndez. Pues mira, es sumamente importante que la academia ocupe estos espacios, ¿verdad?, dentro de la industria. La academia es un ecosistema muy grande, hay diferentes universidades, ¿verdad?, con estos programas. ¿Qué está haciendo la academia en general? Yo sí sé lo que está haciendo la Universidad Ana G. Méndez y la Escuela de Hospitalidad, y esto es el ejemplo de lo que nosotros estamos haciendo como Escuela de Turismo. Es sumamente importante que nuestros estudiantes tengan la oportunidad de participar en estos espacios para que los utilicen de experiencias vivas, ¿verdad? Y no solamente los estudiantes, que es la razón de ser de la academia, sino también nuestra facultad tenga información al día que pueda utilizar dentro de su salón de clases, que pueda las salas de clases y lo que le llamamos académicamente, nuestros bosquejos, nuestros prontuarios son documentos vivos, ¿verdad?, que se nutren de esta información. Agradecemos que estén aquí y esto es parte de lo que la academia debe de seguir haciendo y debe seguir desarrollando, porque somos parte del ecosistema del turismo y nosotros tenemos una escuela de más de 700 estudiantes y es bien importante que la industria entienda que sí, que tenemos estudiantes con las competencias y los conocimientos alineados a las necesidades puntuales de la industria. Vemos como los números de la industria en relación a empleo, 90,000 personas trabajando, y nos tenemos que hacer una pregunta: ¿esas 90,000 personas tienen las características, las cualidades para ejecutar eficientemente en la industria? Seguro que sí, pero sí tenemos estudiantes que puntualmente pueden desarrollarse de manera más rápida porque tienen una experiencia académica en esta área.
A mí me gustaría volver un poquito al tema del aeropuerto y creo que no le pregunté específicamente si ustedes manejan proyecciones ahora mismo en cuanto a qué se podría esperar en los próximos meses y el próximo año.
Sí, y permíteme, voy a tomar algo que mencionó acá el compañero de panel, y es el tema de, ¿verdad?, de la cantidad de la empleomanía que existe hoy día, ¿verdad?, como proyectaron aquí en la presentación sobre 91,000 personas. Pero yo creo que quede claro, ¿verdad?, y eso va ¿verdad?, los estudiantes que están aquí en presencial aquí con nosotros hoy, que hace falta más gente. O sea, no veamos los 91,000 y pensemos que llegamos y estamos ahí, ese es el número. Al contrario, no conozco a nadie en ningún elemento de la industria del visitante que no esté como el reto número uno en su lista, que sea la contratación y la retención de empleados. Así que hay un potencial increíble en muchas áreas de lo que es la industria, así que yo creo que es una buena, ¿verdad?, es una buena oportunidad para aquellos que están estudiando de ver de que en efecto tienen una transición, ¿verdad?, a ese mercado laboral porque existe una necesidad. Yo creo que eso lo compartimos todos en la industria, estamos pasando por ese tema.
De hecho, me gustaría hacerle una pausa ahí. Estuve revisando hace poco los números previos. Para los años 90, la industria tenía alrededor de 30,000 y pico de estudiantes. O sea que a largo plazo, cuando uno mira, más que se ha duplicado, sino triplicado, básicamente, la cantidad
que
de
aparte del volumen, ¿verdad?, la industria se ha ido sofisticando a través de los años. O sea, no es solamente el que tengamos 3 personas o 100 personas o 1,000,000 de personas más en términos de visitantes, es lo que eso conlleva dentro de ese número del visitante, ¿verdad? La experiencia y lo que se espera crea un efecto multiplicador que ahora es mucho más amplio de lo que era hace 30 años, ¿verdad? Eso es parte de lo que estamos viendo. Y en efecto, ¿verdad?, o sea, nosotros vemos las tendencias como existen hoy día, ¿verdad? Nosotros, sí, llegamos a 10.3 millones de pasajeros el año pasado, en el 2022. Ese número o un número similar a eso no se había visto desde el año 2004. ¿Qué pensamos este año? Se va a exceder ese número. Nosotros pensábamos que íbamos a llegar a cerca de 10.7 en el 2023. La tendencia sí sigue como va. Tuvimos el mes de enero pasado, este mes que pasó ahora, de enero del 2023, con sobre 1 millón de pasajeros. Eso nunca se había visto en la historia. Este mes va con una tendencia bien agresiva de igual manera, así que yo creo que estamos viendo unos volúmenes, ¿verdad?, bastante fuertes, que yo creo que alinean a todos los esfuerzos de los diferentes elementos de lo que yo llamo, ¿verdad?, el ecosistema de la economía del visitante, que empieza, ¿verdad?, uno de esos elementos claves es lo que hace el DMO, ¿verdad?, la promoción de destino y la consistencia de promoción de destino es súper importante. Luego de eso están los elementos que dan apoyo a esto, que son, ¿verdad?, el espacio de transporte que somos nosotros, las relaciones de las líneas aéreas, esos elementos, que hay unos elementos técnicos dentro de eso que hacemos nosotros, los elementos que se trabaja con turismo, que son súper importantes, y después de ahí, cómo ese offering, ¿verdad?, esa oferta que existe en islas, sean hoteles, sean alquileres de corto plazo, sean restaurantes, sean sitios de entretenimiento, etcétera, 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 que estén alineados, ¿verdad?, con lo que se espera de esa experiencia. O sea, yo creo que eso es lo que estamos viendo. Las estrellas se han ido alineando y es bien importante que tomemos bien en serio este punto. Yo creo que, no sé si fue Brad que lo mencionó, pero es bien importante que tomemos bien en serio el punto donde estamos hoy día. Puerto Rico capturó lo que se dice en inglés market share en la pandemia. Y tenemos que seguir trabajando para asegurarnos que ese market share capturado lo preservamos y podemos seguir creciendo de él. Es una oportunidad que se nos ha dado y yo creo que hay que seguir, ¿verdad?, trabajando fuerte en ese número.
De hecho, López tenía, creo que algo que podría abundar sobre eso específicamente porque ustedes tienen una agenda también propia de eventos que buscan promover visitación interna y que promueve también hasta la visitación externa. Si pudiéramos hablar.
Sí, antes de hablar de lo que son los eventos, quería, como estaba mencionando Jorge, hemos tenido sobre 1 millón de pasajeros en el aeropuerto, nunca antes visto. ¿Se escucha?
Sí.
Igual, en lo que es recaudo de room tax, hemos tenido el enero que nunca hemos visto anteriormente, sobre 11 millones de dólares recaudados solo en el mes de enero. Y para tener una idea, el promedio es 7.4 millones de dólares. O sea que esa tendencia del aumento en pasajeros, el aumento en room tax, donde único pues, estamos un poco más abajo, bajo un 15% más o menos, son en los cruceros, que en el mes de enero tuvimos sobre 184,000 pasajeros y en el 2019, que fue el año récord, tuvimos sobre 209,000 pasajeros. La pata del crucero es donde estamos más atrás, pero seguimos trabajando para ver si llegamos ya a esos números del 2019, pero definitivamente los números que estamos viendo hoy día en la industria son nunca antes vistos. Tenemos proyecciones de que rompamos los números del año pasado, que fue el año récord en la industria, y esos mismos efectos lo estamos viendo pues, en los eventos que se están realizando en Puerto Rico. La cantidad de eventos es, al igual que con los conciertos, son sumamente altos, eventos que nos proyectan tanto como el Puerto Rico Open, el Ironman, en los fines de semana. Antes llevábamos a cabo como de 5 a 6 eventos, hoy día tenemos 15, 16 eventos que mueven turismo, que mueven en los diferentes municipios alrededor de la isla. Ya vemos que el turismo no solo en San Juan, es alrededor de toda la isla. Esos aeropuertos regionales, al igual que Luis Muñoz Marín, están rompiendo récord en lo que es el tráfico de pasajeros. Así que yo creo que es un año idóneo para el turismo en Puerto Rico y esperamos que así siga.
Stanley, cuando los estudiantes le preguntan por casualidad sobre las oportunidades que hay en la industria, eso es una curiosidad entre los estudiantes actualmente. ¿Y qué se le podría contestar?
Bueno, y esto es a todos los estudiantes. Pues los estudiantes reconocen a través de la información que le llevamos, la facultad, los directivos, los administradores, que este es un momento clave en la industria. Yo llevo más de 30 años en la industria y lo que estamos viendo ahora es bien prometedor y lo que se espera también. Los estudiantes sí, preguntan todos los días cuáles son las oportunidades de empleo. Todos los días recibimos llamadas de restaurantes, de hoteles. Obvio, porque somos parte del mercado laboral, un mercado laboral con conocimientos y experiencia. Tenemos, pues, bachilleratos en operación, administración de hoteles, eventos en convenciones, maestrías en turismo estratégico. Y esa pregunta de los estudiantes, pues obvio, es muy válida. Y lo que hacemos es seguir desarrollando las relaciones con la industria para cada vez que tenemos algún estudiante que nos requiere esa información o que nos solicita, pues tenemos ese contacto directo para referirle los mejores candidatos a la industria y suplir, ¿verdad?, del mejor recurso humano.
Perfecto. A mí me gustaría que cada uno de ustedes tenga una reflexión final sobre la industria en términos generales, cómo la ven, qué se podría cambiar, de dónde salen sus fortalezas y el futuro que nos departa. Podemos empezar. ¿Quieres tú?
Pues mira, este año en la compañía de turismo nos vamos a enfocar en lo que es algo que yo creo que hemos dejado un poquito atrás, reaccionando de todos los años que llevamos viviendo de crisis, que es lo que es el servicio al cliente. Esa va a ser nuestra prioridad. Ahora en marzo vamos a estar lanzando una campaña de calidad de Puerto Rico, sí, donde queremos adiestrar a toda la industria, ¿no? Desde que te sirve en el front desk hasta altos gerentes, hospedería, o sea, todo lo que tenga que ver con la industria de turismo, pues yo creo que es algo que hemos dejado un poco atrás y que es muy importante que se lleve a cabo un servicio de calidad en los estándares que ya hoy día debemos de estar ofreciendo en Puerto Rico.
Mariel.
Bueno, en lo que nosotros respecta, el 2023 es un año que está más que nada dirigido al desarrollo de parcelas que están ubicadas principalmente en el área del distrito de convenciones, y el reto mayor es identificar cuáles son las diferentes ofertas de entretenimiento. Como les dije ahorita, vamos a estar añadiendo al área de esas parcelas. Vienen unos anuncios importantísimos, algunos de ellos ya se hicieron, y es principalmente en la franja que va de lo que es el Club Náutico hasta los muelles 6, 7, 8 en el Viejo San Juan. Esa franja de Puerta de Tierra es un área importantísima, ¿verdad? Es parte de la cara que ese visitante ve cuando llega a Puerto Rico, ya sea por el aeropuerto y decida visitar el área del Viejo San Juan o porque llegue a través de los cruceros. Y ciertamente pues son desarrollos que van a añadir a esa alternativa de que haya cosas diferentes, innovadoras, y que nos continúen posicionando como un destino que tiene que ofrecer mucho más que playa. Y en cuanto a los eventos, pues continuar identificando eventos que pongan a Puerto Rico en el mapa, que nos den ese espaldarazo de decirle al mundo que nosotros tenemos la capacidad de hacer cosas grandes, como por ejemplo haber recibido 2 años corridos el evento de Dick Clark para despedida de año. Pues es un mensaje a la industria de un evento que lleva más de 50 años de establecido, de dejarle saber que Puerto Rico tiene la capacidad de hacer cosas como esta. Ya tenemos los acercamientos para regresar el 2023, Tengo muchísimos anuncios de cosas que van a estar pasando que desgraciadamente no les puedo compartir todavía, pero estamos tomando una relevancia en el tema del entretenimiento que nos ayuda a posicionarnos allá afuera. Aquí están nuestros amigos y vecinos del distrito T-Mobile, que aquí todo el mundo sabe que es un privilegio contar con una facilidad como esta, como parte de la oferta de cosas nuevas que hay en Puerto Rico. Así que yo creo que al final del día el mensaje es que más que estudiantes estamos graduando embajadores. Y la diáspora, yo creo que nosotros debemos apostar a que nuestra diáspora debe ser parte de ese embajador que le pueda hablar al mundo de lo espectacular que es Puerto Rico. Así que...
Bueno, me uno exactamente a lo que mencionan, ¿verdad? Que se ha mencionado hasta ahora, y yo añadiría, ¿verdad?, que como industria, por lo menos en el área de la aviación, el tema de la experiencia del pasajero es bien importante. Y pues parte del enfoque que se va a ver, no solamente nosotros, yo creo que lo vamos a ver a nivel global, es ese enfoque en la experiencia del pasajero, que conlleva inclusive la implementación de tecnología y un sinnúmero de otras cosas, ¿verdad?, para que esa experiencia sea aún más. En el caso nuestro en específico, pues obviamente envuelve eso. Estamos trabajando con unas herramientas de inteligencia artificial inclusive para mejorar ciertas partes operativas, pero aún más allá de esto, yo creo que el tema de sustentabilidad es un tema bien importante y que la industria tiene que empezar a embrace, ¿verdad? Porque se está convirtiendo en uno de esos elementos de decisión. Y pues esos son uno de los pasos que nosotros estamos tomando bien en serio. Nos estamos moviendo a obtener una certificación de emisiones de biocarbonos, de lo que llaman Carbon Emission Certification, para de ahí saber nuestro mapping y empezar a implementar soluciones en miras a ir disminuyendo, ¿verdad?, nuestro carbon footprint hacia futuro, y un sinnúmero de otras medidas alrededor de esto que son súper importantes y que son bien importantes ahora, ¿verdad?, dentro de este nuevo mindset post-pandemia, ¿verdad?, que nos estamos concentrando en comprender nuestra participación y nuestro impacto en el ambiente. Pues eso son parte de las cosas muy importantes que estamos trabajando también.
Bueno, pues muchísimas gracias a nuestros invitados. Los excusamos y pedimos que... falta,
sí,
perdóname,
sí.
caray,
Rapidito.
Chico,
Mira, bien rápido, los números están ahí.
Me voy a botar de aquí.
No. Los números están ahí, lo hemos visto durante la mañana de hoy. Las proyecciones son impresionantes. Sé que hay mucha diversidad de profesiones, pero el momento de estudiar turismo es ahora. Y si lo quieren hacer, los invito a que sean parte de la mejor de Puerto Rico y el Caribe, en la Universidad Ana G. Méndez.
Eso. Imagínate, si le corto esa línea. Bueno, ahora sí, excusamos a los invitados y llevamos acá el podio a la mesa. Se pueden levantar, gracias. Ya estamos, sí. Bueno, pues vamos a la conferencia de prensa ahora, hemos abusado de su tiempo. Y nada, gracias a todos, gracias nuevamente a la Ana G. Méndez, a ese departamento culinario que ha estado espectacular. Gracias mil.